Hi, I'm Brenda Reiss, freedom and forgiveness coach, and a person just like you that is learning to navigate life and all of its challenges. I teach a forgiveness process like no other. It's a blend of practical and spiritual forgiveness. This process guides you into knowing how unforgiveness can be keeping you stuck in your relationships, both personally and professionally, and how it prevents you from releasing resentment and finding joy. Each week, I share practical and some not so practical tips, tools, and advice from myself and other people that are on this journey just like us. This is for you if you are ready to turn your pain into peace. Welcome to the Forgive Yourself podcast. Well, hello and welcome to the Forgive Yourself podcast with Brenda Reiss. I am so excited for my guest today, Michèle Heffron. Michèle and I met in the FAVE business group or biz for women, and we have gotten to know each other, probably for the last year or so, I think, or maybe even longer. Yeah. And, I've been on her podcast and now I'm excited to have her on mine because she helps people get to the heart of who they are and what they're meant for. Let me tell you a little bit about Michèle, and then we'll get into her story and talk a little bit more. Michèle is a certified life, relationship, and divorce coach who draws on her own life experiences with divorce, career transitions, money issues, and relationship dynamics to help other people navigate through their own life transitions. Now, Michèle's personal belief in the power of coaching is a living testament to what's possible for all of us when we simply let things go, ask for help, and open up our hearts to see what else is possible. So, she says, whether faced with something as monumental as a divorce, becoming an empty nester, or simply looking for what's next in life, Michèle guides her clients through the process of transformation. And by listening, she's an excellent listener, asking questions, and I love her questions. And she provides a safe, non-judgmental space for them to share and express feelings while they gain clarity about their path forward in their life. Michèle, I'm happy to have you here.
Oh, I'm so thrilled to be here, Brenda. And you're always so bubbly and sunshiny. And I love it. Always makes any call I'm on when you're on there with your smile just so much more fun. So I so appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Well, good, because we have a fangirl going on, right? Because I so admire you and how you process and how you think and how you help people, because your story is what got you into coaching. And before we go into that, let's talk a little bit about you help. Now, you started off just helping women, right? But now it's kind of expanded.
Yeah. When I started all this, I thought, oh, yeah, I want to help women probably over 40 or 50. And, help them through life transitions, as a coach. And then my work started morphing a lot into people who were going through divorces, not all. Yeah. And then I got involved with a lot of legal professionals who were sending me other clients. And I work now with men. I've worked with women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and a lot of 60 plusers. And that's where I feel like kind of my sweet spot is, because I'm over 60. Yeah. But it is interesting when I'm working with younger people, they tend to be more open to change than older people do.
I wonder about that. Yes, over 60, we can be a little set in our ways. Yes.
A little bit. But you know what? It's always fun. And like I tell everybody, I love, love, love what I do.
Oh, and it shows. It shows your compassionate heart is just like perfect for this. And you're also the way that you can analyze and help people and walk people through. Because when we're going through something like divorce or any life transition, having a coach walking beside us is really needed to help us see things that we can't see and to motivate us when we don't feel like it, but really feel like we're not alone. So you were motivated to become a coach, right? At the age of 60. So that's a whole new career. So what got you to this point? And tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll move forward.
Well, it's so funny, actually, when I think about, how how you look back at your life sometimes and you can kind of see the through thread of how you get to someplace.
Yeah.
And I call it the golden thread right now because I don't know about you, but when I went to college, I know this goes way back, but I was supposed to take this assessment.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the assessment essentially told me that I would have been a good psychologist. Like I should go into psychology or I should go into nonprofit work or, things where I'm, kind of helping people. And I said, no, 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 no. I'm going to be ruling the world. I had no desire to, in my mind, wear sweaters with patches on the sleeves and bad shoes. I was thinking CEO or ruling the world. Well, fast forward in life, I tried doing all those other things, and it really isn't where my passion was. Where my passion was always helping people. Like even the last role I was in corporate nonprofit work, and I had a team. And what I loved most about my team was helping them grow to where they wanted to go. And I had always wanted to, the very first coach I hired was after my divorce, and we'll talk about that a little
Yeah.
bit. And it really opened the door for me to understand that there's so much more out there that I could be doing and that I didn't feel very good about myself and that I was kind of stuck in life. And I remember sitting down and I thought maybe it's just because I try to think I need to do everything, but I sat down and after the first session, I thought I'm meant to be a coach. That's what I'm supposed to do. Right.
I know that one.
Well, so years later, I looked at the enrollment for doing this. I went through a very, very, very intensive training program to get my certification for my life coaching. It was almost a year long program and very intense. I think it was like 360 hours of
Wow.
work. It was big. And and it was actually during COVID. And I thought, well, I'm stuck here anyway in my tower. I had to give up my office. My team was all remote. And I thought, I think I'll take this. I think I'll go ahead and enroll in this course. And it was like getting enrolling in a college kind of thing because it wasn't inexpensive. And it
Right.
was very strict. Like you couldn't miss classes, you couldn't miss sessions and all this stuff. But I loved it, even though it was so hard. And I didn't really know what I was going to do with it. I knew eventually I would want to be a coach. I just didn't know how I could ever leave my paying job with my big salary and
Yep.
benefits and all that. And it's funny how the universe works behind the scenes. All this stuff was falling into place that allowed me to step into this role with grace. And I didn't know what I was doing all the time, and I still don't, but I do know what I know. And I know that I'm really good working with people. So I do know that whenever I have that, when I get to do that, the actual work, not the marketing pieces of it, not all the
Right.
other things that you have to do in a business, but I'm learning to love those too.
It
I
takes time for those things.
It does, but that was the transition. And yeah, I was 60 years old when I did it, when I started, and I I don't ever look back.
That's amazing. I mean, kudos to you and hats off. I mean, because that takes courage, to follow your heart. I mean, what you were doing was it's like when I fell into the forgiveness coaching, after my first session, it was like, I mean, it was like, I have to do this.
Yeah,
And it's just this knowing. And then, also afraid to leave the job and the security, but that's also part of the process.
exactly.
When you're being called towards something, sometimes we have to be willing to let go of what we think is safety, and to dive into more of what we're meant to do.
Yeah.
Now, were you divorced at the time you were going through the coaching school?
Yes. So I went through my divorce nearly 15 years ago now.
Okay.
And at the time I was in my late 40s, almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
I had a career before, and then when my son was born, I decided I wanted to try to be a stay-at-home mom. I had never done that. I'd always worked, had a career, and my daughter had to go, to daycare, all the things. And so I was like, I think I'll just try this. So 10 years into it
Yeah.
without having a real job, I had a couple businesses and stuff. I went through a divorce, and my daughter at the time was in college.
Mm.
My son was in middle school or just going into middle school that next year. And I didn't have a job. I didn't have really any money. I didn't have a credit card or a real bank account because I had been removed from our bank account.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that I wasn't a joint owner. And I didn't fare very well during my divorce, both emotionally and financially. And most of it was because if I had had somebody helping me along the way, I would have done so much better for myself. But I tried to be the one that I just had to do it all on my own. Right.
Yes. I can do it. I'm strong. And
Uh,
there's shame there, so I can't tell anybody.
right. So it didn't prove to be a very good decision on my part, how I went through it. But I was not going to be a statistic. And I knew that I had what it took to do something. And, I started networking and then I got a really big job and then I started getting more jobs and then things started transpiring after that. And, and then back then, not quite right at the time because I didn't know how I would afford a coach. I didn't even know what a coach was actually back then.
Right.
I got my first coach and that's when things started to really shift in my life for me. But
Wow.
I was also very coachable and I was gobbling up anything I could read. And I was so wanting to change what was happening in my life and be somebody different. And I didn't want to get into another situation where I was getting in the same type of relationship with the same type of person again, because I had already been married once.
Okay.
So that was my, so I didn't want
Yeah,
to redo. I call it now marrying the same person with a different face.
exactly.
Their behaviors and when you start to learn how to identify and become aware of your behaviors and other people's behaviors, you can start to identify what's not working for you in your life and find other ways to go about things.
Did you find, first I'm going to say thank you for that because that's really important. Thank you for sharing where you were at and that, you thought you could do it on your own, but realized, hindsight is 2020, realized that you couldn't. And I imagine you encourage people today to do that, to reach out sooner rather than
Right.
later.
So much earlier is so much better because you know you don't know what you don't know.
No. And we beat ourselves up for that. And it's a waste of energy for us to do that. Because I always said, when you said marrying the same person with the same face, I married, I'm on my fourth marriage. And so going through 3 divorces, I always said, same content, different package, right?
Oh
They
gosh,
look
yeah,
different, but the same content. And when I found out the common denominator was me,
yeah,
not to say they don't have their own stuff,
yeah,
but what you were saying earlier was it's so valuable, which you help do in your work is what got me there. What led me to these behaviors and I love discovering the beliefs and patterns that got me to this point so that now we can make those changes.
yeah. Well, and it's taking that radical personal responsibility
Yes.
for being the one. I love Byron Katie. I don't know if you've read,
Oh, yes.
but cleaning up your own side of the street and stop being on other people's sides of the street where it's not your business. It is so much
Mhm.
more energetically aligned with who I want to be,
Yes.
is if I'm just worrying about what I'm doing.
Oh yeah, I had explained. I went through AA. I got sober through all of this stuff, and the one thing I remember a mentor saying in that process was, Brenda, imagine a hula hoop over your head, and just stay within your own hula hoop
Oh, I love
and
that.
not somebody else's hula hoop. And
Uh-huh.
that, the visuals, I'm good with those. Give me
Yeah.
a visual. And it was so cool because even though I wanted to blame my exes,
Mhm.
I
Yep.
wanted, and I did up until I learned differently. It was really valuable to know that when we work on that with a coach like you, it's like we can get to the point where we have a choice. What I
Exactly.
call it's a choice point where I can choose to continue to blame and give my energy away and stop me from my forward growth. Or I can go, huh,
Yep.
I can clean up my side of the street, which I always love.
Yes.
And, and then they're on their side. Now, it's not easy work.
Oh, heavens, no.
It's not
It's,
easy work.
and even, no, I tell people all the time, I mean, it's a work in progress.
Yes.
Because just when you think you've got one thing figured out, all of a sudden something else bubbles up. I was called out. I still work with a coach. I have a
Yes.
coach,
Me
as you
too.
know, and you know.
Yeah.
I was called out on something a few weeks ago, which probably I would have found offensive a couple years before that. But I've
I
done
know.
enough work now to know that when somebody's actually kind enough to make an observation about something,
Yes.
that I can take it and I can say, is this true?
Yes. I love
And
that.
and it's like, oh, she was right. What do I need to do this differently? And it's not always easy because, well, you know this when working with so many of your clients too. It's like you have to, your words are so powerful. And when you say, I am this type of person,
Yes.
well, that isn't really accurate. It's really, I choose to be this type of person.
Thank you.
And
Yes. Yes. Beautiful.
and it's like, okay, what am I choosing? Just to your point, how am I, what am I choosing to do in this case? And having that awareness it was so good. It actually just sort of changed the trajectory of where I was sort of my mindset was,
Yes.
and where I really wanted to go. And I thought it was sort of like a key just unlocked a door. And I went, oh, I didn't know how to get through that door. And now it's so apparent to me. But it's funny how these things happen, but it does take somebody else. Sometimes it's a different perspective.
A different perspective.
And, like I'm sure you see this with your clients all the time. You're seeing things in them that you don't always see in yourself.
Yes.
We're really good at kind of, but I do work. One of the things that why I do this is because, you get to teach what you want to know about, what you want to
Yes.
learn, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
So as I'm continuing to learn and grow in my own self, I feel like I just get better and better and better about helping other people learn and grow about who they are. It's so
Yeah.
fun.
Well, and I love it because we have to do the work ourselves first to be
Yes.
able to coach with people. And so what do you think in your life held you back? Like, we talk about dreams. Like for me, it was a lot of codependence with my relationship. So I had their dreams. I didn't dream big myself. I didn't even have a dream. But, getting you to this point, what do you think was holding you back? What have you discovered about yourself?
Yeah. Well, so much of mine was self-inflicted, limiting belief things that came from, you know, well-meaning parents and well-meaning friends and family members and teachers and whatever it was. But I think that you're born with all of this effervescence and amazingness about you and love, and then we're conditioned to believe certain things. And there were some real pivotal moments. I was a ballet dancer when I was young. Ballet. I took ballet all my life, and I had somebody say to me that I was too short. My legs were never long enough, and I would never be able to go. And I
Oh,
was like, and I literally did dance through college. I even did a USO tour, but I never believed in myself enough to
mm,
think that I could go out there and do it. And my mother, who she's not with us any longer, but because of her own limiting beliefs,
yeah.
I picked up on so much of those, and we do that. And I also, probably that I love to write. I'm a really, really, really love to write. And I had a college professor rip one of my essays up. It was a story of something, and I was like, I stopped. I didn't even want to journal after that. It
I
was just
bet.
crazy, right? So
Yes.
there's all these things that get woven into our belief systems that we don't know that they're actually the things that hold us back, but they do. And that's also one of the things that I needed help getting unraveled. And releasing and unattaching myself from, or detaching myself from all these things. And when I went through that coaching certification, like you said, I mean, you have to learn this stuff and do this work on yourself. It was so intense. The work we did, we had like a 30-hour weekend that we did. And I've never had so much stuff tumble out of my attic than ever. I mean, it was just like the
I so
craziest thing.
understand. I love that analogy of the attic too, because I use that too. It's like, it's like we have a bunch of boxes in the attic that are taking up our energy, but use that metaphor, the attic. And it's like, being willing to go in and open the boxes. And like that, when you go through an intensive, you're opening boxes that you didn't really ever want to open.
Oh, no. I mean,
Yes.
I literally had a dream that first night that I found a door in the house that I'd been living in forever. And it led to the attic. And I opened the door and boxes tumbled out on me. And I remember seeing, how some of the attics have that little itty bitty window up at the top.
Yes.
I could see the light coming through there.
Oh.
And I just was laying on the floor, like surrounded by all these boxes. And I was like, how am I going to get through all these? And this voice said, one at a time.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my God. Okay. Game on.
That's grace, right? That's giving yourself grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you start this journey of like the self-discovery and the awareness of this before you started coaching? Or was it like, I think usually we're on a path.
Yeah.
And it culminates in something big like the coaching, like oops, it's time to wake up kind of thing. But how old were you when you kind of started to do the self-discovery work?
It's funny. So I think I started right when I got out of college. I worked for a company called the Pacific Institute, and they worked on a lot of this kind of stuff. And I wanted to believe it so badly, but I didn't see how it was going to ever change my life. And I didn't understand how mantras were going to work. And it was like, yeah, that's fine for those people, but not fine for me. Right. So then I kind of fast forward, and I found a book the other day that I just reread. It's called The Four Agreements, which
I love it.
Oh my goodness. I found all these underlinings, and I started, I think that was one of the very first books I read. And that's when I was still married, but I could tell there was things shifting in me, and I had lost who I was during that marriage. And I could tell that there was something that needed to shift. And then I started maybe picking up a few other books, and I don't even know how, but I went to a Jack Canfield thing when he was here several years ago. And then that sort of really got me thinking more about, and then I just started reading all kinds of books, and then I was working. It was kind of when I got the coach, and I was one of my really good girlfriends who I'd known for years and years. She had sold her company, and she had taken a little sabbatical and went through a coaching program. In fact, she went through the same one I went through. I went through it because of her.
Okay.
And she came and she said, "Hey, will you practice with me? I have to practice. When you go through a coaching program, right? You have to have your practice people." And I said, "Sure. I don't know what this is all about, but okay," because I was doing some other work, but I didn't realize that I actually could be moved along faster. So it was very gradual. Right. Then I started reading tons of things. I talk about how the universe is working behind the scenes a lot. We don't really know what's going on, but all of it, even the coach I have now, I found, and I know it was because I planted a seed years ago, and voila, there it all came. And it was right there on a silver platter for me. And I said, okay, what are you learning here? Put the seeds out, let them go, see what happens.
Way to manifest, girl.
Right?
Yeah, way to manifest. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think that's how we all learn, really. I mean, most of us, we don't have the white lightning moments like, we hear about. We'd like to, but the gradual, and then realizing when you look back going, oh, there were seeds along the way. Some we picked up and some we didn't.
Yeah.
And that's good. Now, where have you found in your own personal journey and in working with others that forgiveness fits in with people going through divorce or life transitions. When did you ever even think about forgiveness when you were going through your process?
People would bring it up to me, and I was so angry,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't understand what forgiveness really meant. Let me just say that first, because, some people, and I would think, well, I'm not supposed to forgive him. Well, no, actually, you're supposed to forgive yourself. And and I
We
didn't
don't know it though. We don't know that.
and I didn't understand that at all. So it took me some time to really understand what the whole thing about forgiveness is. And it's such a beautiful thing when you can start to uncover some of that. Even being able to like let everything go, so many of us blame our parents for what's happening in our life. So many of us blame our partners or our exes or whatever they are. So many of us blame the situation or the government or the rain or whatever it is.
Anything.
And and at the end of the day, it's really about taking a really beautiful mirror and looking at yourself in that mirror and going,
Yeah.
no, it's about me. I get to look at this how I choose to. So pick a lens.
Yes, pick a lens. Absolutely. And the important thing too for people to know is don't jump to forgiveness. I have clients come to me going through a separation or divorce and they're like, "Okay, I just need to forgive and it's all going to be well." It's
Nope.
like, "Oh, no, 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 no. We got to feel the feelings first. We got to do some little investigation first. We don't jump to forgiveness."
Yeah.
And they're surprised. It's like, "Wait, you're a forgiveness coach." And it's like, "Uh-huh."
Yeah.
But honor yourself.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And, it's about also when you say, feeling those feelings, it's like putting it out there. What are you angry about anyway?
Yes.
And then again, back to the Byron Katie thing, and then ask, is it true? And how do you know it is? And
Yes.
really having to, it's if you can pick things apart, it's like dissecting things a little bit to really see what it is, and kind of hold it and see it, and
Yeah.
then go, oh, okay, now I'm okay. I can let that go. It is, or whatever it is. But just pretending that we can forgive, it still stays down there.
It's
And
in the boxes, right?
yeah, something, and things have to come out,
Yeah.
right? You have to be able to release things so they can go out and then let them go, right?
Yes. No, that's beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I thank you so much for this. And I want to ask a question before we close up is like, how do you work with people? Can you give like a little snapshot for people? Because I would love them to reach out to you if this fits for them,
Yeah.
who are going through life transitions, a divorce, or something really big in their life. How do
Mhm.
you work with people?
Yeah. Well, I always start with a free consult when people want to get a hold of me.
Right?
I work with people one on one. It's private and on via Zoom, but I also I don't have a prescribed
Mhm.
agenda. I want to understand where people are right now, and we go from where they are. And we just take them, and then what do they want? And some people don't know what they want. Most people don't know what they want. I mean, even in a divorce situation, it's like, what do you want by the end of this?
Mm.
Well, yeah, you want him out of your life. Okay, we that's happening. So let's, you know,
True. If they just go away, I'll be fine.
right. And so, no, that's actually not the case, because if they go, it's like if you take a rock out of the ocean, water's going to come in. So something's going to fill in there. So make sure you're going to fill it with what you really want.
Beautifully said. Oh my God. That's
And
great.
so it's very customized, I guess. And
Yeah.
it's really getting people to where they're going or want to be. And it's kind of creating the vision and building the roadmap to get there.
Mm.
And And on any given day, you're going to feel a certain way or not, or something's happening. And it's sort of like what's coming up for you. And as we're finding those things that come up, continuing to move forward, because it's always like it's going forward. Like working with people in their relationships, sometimes they talk about going back. I go, you never go back.
Never.
Eliminate that phrase from your vocabulary. It's like you're always moving forward. The universe is expanding always. So we are also expanding always and growing. And if you're not, then you're in a holding pattern. So keep moving forward and never go back.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So Michèle, if people want more information, you mentioned a consultation.
Yeah.
And you also have a podcast. So can you tell us a little bit, how can people reach you for the consultation? And we will link it in the show notes.
Thank
and
you.
your podcast too. So tell us about that.
Yeah, but I started my podcast. I didn't want to because I didn't really know what I was going to say. And now I have so much fun with it. And Brenda, thank you for being a guest on it. And you can find Brenda's episode too on my podcast. So my podcast is called Getting to the Heart. We talk about life, relationships, and divorce. And I link them all together because there is some, like I said, the golden thread that kind of goes through it all. Yeah. And I'm on all the platforms. Spotify is one of the big ones, but I'm on all the platforms. And you can find my podcast on my website, which is michelleheffron.com. My name, Michèle, has one L. So sometimes people don't find me, but I know Brenda will have it in the show notes.
Yes, we will.
And I send out a weekly newsletter. And again, I love to write. So it's one of my favorite outlets to share with people kind of the things that are going on. So please subscribe to that. And I'm on social media, mostly on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I'm working on getting my Instagram kind of figured out. But anyway,
your newsletter is fantastic. I love getting it. It's really informational, short, sweet, to the point, and just really, it's really informational. So I highly recommend that.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. And thank you for telling us about the socials, because I would really like people to really kind of just connect with you and learn a little bit more, especially when they're going through the life transitions, because you offer a lot of great information. And do you have anything to leave the listeners with? Like if they're going through a life transition, divorce, or something, what is just a little tidbit of advice?
Well, the first thing that always comes to mind is get some help. Whether it's me or Brenda or somebody who can help you, who really knows what's going on and isn't in your friend group or your neighborhood or your sister or whoever like that. And God bless them, because they're important too, but they are not your coach. And understand that you want to become a different person through the whole thing. So you're not doing the same things over and over. But I think the biggest thing is just to give yourself some grace and some love and kindness and care. It's like giving yourself a big hug in the morning and just saying, I love you.
Yeah. Because, we go through things for a reason. And I'm so grateful that you shared that. Thank you. That's really wise. And, we learn, right? We learn through experience. Gosh, if I would have asked a little sooner, and like you said earlier, be coachable. Open yourself up to learning something new about you.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for me, it was having to become vulnerable and put myself out there. And I was like, oh, that's hard. But you know what? People love it when you do it and it's honest and it's your truth.
Mm-hmm. And it gives them permission to do the same.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just, and for you, Brenda, and I just appreciate what you do so much. I think all of us who are out there trying to do work to help people and help the world become a better place, it's a ripple. And when each person finds even a little bit more betterness in their life, betterness, if that's a word, I do believe that it affects so many others around us. And, a little bit at a time goes a long way. And I think the ripple effects are big.
Oh, they're huge.
Yeah.
They're huge. Michèle, thank you so much for being on the Forgive Yourself podcast. And I am just excited to see what else you're going to provide for us and how many more people you are going to help.
Well, thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you. This has just been so much fun.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to the Forgive Yourself podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please visit our website at Brenda Reiss, REISS coaching.com for more show notes and additional episodes. And would you do me a favor and subscribe to this podcast? And please consider rating and reviewing the show. That will help other people find us. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Forgive Yourself podcast. Take care.